Yo, welcome back to the Ski Bum Surf Guide. This is episode number 4. We're going to get straight to it. Today we're going to be talking about Pavones, Costa Rica. It's Pavones season. What does that mean? Pavones season is generally when the south swells start to crank up in the South Pacific. You know, you can catch Pavones starting April or May, but it really doesn't start to crank until June, July, and August. Pavones is a place that needs a little bit more swell, but there are some spots in Pavones that you can find some beach break that will work all the time. Those places won't really work with swell. Anyways, we're gonna get straight to it. So here you go, the Ski Bum Surf Guide, episode number 4, Pavones. Let's go. All right, so let's start with the basics. First, you're gonna hopefully be flying into San Jose, which is at the top left corner of the map. It's about a 6 or 7 or 8 hour journey from San Jose to Pavones. If you fly into Liberia, you can add another 5 to 7 hours on top of that. So I highly suggest you fly into San Jose. Okay, there's multiple ways to get to Pavones from San Jose. Some are expensive and some are kind of cheap. Kinda. Okay, so first off, the most expensive way is just going to be to book a direct shuttle with a private company, a shared shuttle or a private shuttle, Interbus, Gray Line. There's several Carib tours, shuttles that will take you all the way to Pavones, especially if you have 2 people that can book. That's probably the least headache. Otherwise, you're going to need to go to one of the bus terminals in San Jose, like Trilapa, and you're going to need to catch a bus to Golfito, which is Golfito, as you can see, is lower on the map. And once you get to Golfito, you're going to have to either catch a taxi or another bus. You can also catch a bus to Rio Claro and then to Golfito. Then you have multiple buses. So if you're going to do it by bus, you're going to have like a 2 or 3 stage journey. A lot of times what I do is I'll catch the buses to Golfito, and then from Golfito I'll take a taxi from Golfito directly to Pavones. That'll take about 7 or 8 hours from San Jose, and depending on how long you have to wait. And the taxi will probably cost you $50 to $60 one way, depending on your ability to bargain with the taxi driver. All right, next, we've got to Pavones. Now we got to know where to surf, okay? Here we have the map of the surf spots in Pavones. I'm going to start at the far southern tip of Pavones and go north and east. Okay, you're going to start with Punto Banco, which is not a point break. It's a beach break. It's going to pick up more swell. It's going to work when everything else is small. It's not going to work when things are big. It's a go-to during dry season for the surfers who live in the area. But just in general in Pavones, you're going to find that if you just go there and stay for a long time, you're going to have a decent number of flatter days, okay? Pavones is not a swell magnet. It needs a bigger swell to really get cranking. And so on those days when there's no swell, little to no swell, you're going to want to surf Punta Banco, okay? Next, we're going to go up, and there's in Pavones town, there's actual Pavones, which is the river mouth, and then above the river mouth, you're going to have a couple reef breaks. They have couple different names. People call them La Nicaragua, La Pina, the pineapple, yeah. Some of these reef breaks are dangerous. They're shallow. You can get cut. You can get hurt. They're localized. So avoid them or surf them at your own risk. And then you're going to have the river mouth. And the river mouth is obviously the main point, which is called Pavones. And in general, the river mouth is the most hollow section, followed by the inside of the river mouth, which is more mellow but can still be steep and hollow. Okay, at the main point, you can ride whatever you want, but on bigger days, you're going to want to ride a shortboard probably because there's a lot of current moving. You're going to have to duck dive, and yeah. It's Pavones. It's one of the longest waves in the world. It's a leg burner. You can get a couple barrels at the river mouth at low tide. You can get a lot of turns down the line. And it's a world-class destination. There's a scene here. There's a world-famous wall where everyone sits and watches the waves. And yeah, don't expect to surf alone. Don't expect to surf even near alone. If it's good, everyone in Costa Rica is going to plan to be there. They're going to come there on a swell. So that's the main point. Here's some pictures I've taken of the main point. This is obviously the first picture is of the river mouth section breaking along the rocks. the river mouth is the hardest paddle out. If you're not comfortable paddling out and duck diving in a lot of whitewater over a lot of sharp, shallow rocks, or not sharp always, but rough, shallow rocks, you're gonna want to paddle around to this. You're gonna come around to this section where you see here and paddle out and around. Okay. The second photo is of the inside of the river mouth section, and the third photo is the far inside as it's breaking towards the shore in Pavones, towards the clinic, towards the rock formation that'll lead you to the clinic. Okay, so as you can see, it's a big swell. Pavones holds a lot of swell. It can hold a big swell. You can catch a lot of waves there. You can also not, because there's a lot. There can be, when it's like this, there's going to be a lot of people. It's going to be highly localized farther up the point, and a lot of the non-locals are going to be spending most of their time down the point. And so as we can keep continuing to the north and to the east on the map, we have the surf spot map again. The next point is going to be the one that's known as El Higo, or El Higo in Espanol, okay, because the H is silent. And El Higo is my favorite wave in Pavones. It's it can have several personalities. In general, it's not as heavy. It can be super long. In fact, some days I think it's longer than Pavones Point. You know, don't attack me in the comments, people, but yeah, I think it's longer than Pavones Point. It's generally more mellow. It's easier to access. The paddle out's easier. You can come up to different sections in the point, and you can literally just hop off the rocks and paddle right into the channel and swing around and then paddle up to the spot in the point where you want to catch waves. If you're a shortboarder in general, you want to take off higher on the point, and if you're a longboarder or you're riding something more like a fun shape or a fish, you can pretty much take off anywhere on the point, including the inside section. Okay, and it's a great point. The crowd's gonna be more mellow. It's gonna be more friendly. It's about a 10-minute walk from town, maybe 15 minutes along the beach to the north and to the east, and it's a great place to just work on your skills, have a really fun time, get away from the scene in Pavones. There aren't gonna be people standing on the wall watching you surf. You can just have a good time. Okay, and so yeah, I highly recommend El Higo for anyone who's an intermediate. Even beginners can have a good time at El Higo. And yeah, it's my favorite wave in Pavones, hands down. Yeah, so here you've got about a 40-second video of me surfing El Higo on a 5.8 twin fin. My girlfriend took this video on her phone. It's not the best video quality ever, but as you can see, I'm riding for 40 seconds plus. And you don't even have me taking off on the wave, which I actually did a section or two above where the video started. And as you can see, as the video ends, I'm still surfing towards the beach at El Higo. I surfed past a couple surfers, but in general, like, it's way less crowded than Pavones. I think at Pavones this day there was about 40 to 50 people in the water, and I think there was about 10 at El Higo. And probably this is just because people don't want to walk outside of town, and probably because people just love to be at the name dropper spot. People love to be in the scene, and you know, I'm not one of those people. So here we have the Google Earth view of Pavones. As you can see, there's Panama to the south and the east, Punta Banco to the south and the west, where the beach break is. Pavones just up a little north of that, and as we move down on the point, we see El Higo, which will be right out in front of the Rio Macho. It's fed by the Rio Macho. That's what makes the sandbars so good there. Obviously, Pavones is fed by the river in Pavones. That's going to lead to the sandbars forming there. That's another reason that this wave works better in wet season when it's raining, because when it rains, the rivers run and they create fantastic sandbars that allow the wave to break and break and break. It's one of the longest lefts in the world, if not the longest left. Okay, Chicama is the longest left, but Chicama doesn't work that well. Finally, on the surf spots list for Pavones, we have the couple little breaks that are in Puerto Pilon, Rancho del Mar, and Puerto Pilon. Both these spots need a lot more swell to work. They have pretty friendly crowds. There'll be a lot of local kids surfing here. But yeah, it's going to be significantly smaller than Pavones, which means it's going to work even less amount of days a year than Pavones. But if you are in need of like a getaway, or you want to try something different, or you want to see like a local vibe where there's not a lot of tourists, I highly recommend it. As you keep going to the north and the east, there's also a town called Zacanundo. There's some breaks there, but we'll leave that for the locals, and you know, you can find it yourself if you want. So finally, we're going to talk about where to stay in Pavones. There's lots of places to stay. There's Airbnbs, there's hotels. Here we have a couple of hotels from Google with some general prices for right now during the quote-unquote high season. I think my favorite is Cabines Carol. The people who run the place, I think he's a French-Canadian. They're really nice. There's a kitchen that's shared between everyone who stays there. Yeah, it's a great place to stay. I've also stayed at the one across the way called Esperanza or something like that, but it's right in the main point. It's a 2-minute walk to the point. There's a store about 50 to 100 meters up the road, and yeah, you can get everything you need. What I will tell you is that if you are coming to Pavones and you're planning on staying like a week or two, or even longer, like a month, okay, there's a couple things I would tell you. First, it would be to buy groceries on your way, especially if you're going to have a taxi driver bring you from Golfito. Maybe go to the supermercado and buy, because there's not a selection of much here, and you're going to be limited even on your eating out options, and some of them are going to cost you a lot of money. So if you're going to spend a lot of time in Pavones, or you're going to want to cook and have some variety, and you're not going to want to spend a lot of money, I highly recommend bringing groceries with you. And also, if you're coming to Pavones for a long amount of time, even if it's in the high season, expect a lot of flat days. If you don't bring a longboard, if you don't bring like a fat fish or something that can ride when it's like relatively flat, you're going to spend a lot of time doing nothing, sitting in a hammock, reading, because yeah, it's out there, it's in the middle of nowhere, there's not a lot to do, there's not a lot to see other than surf and, you know, do that. So I'm just telling you to be prepared. If you're going to come for a long time, be prepared to have some flat days. Most people who go to Pavones, we go on strike missions. We stay somewhere else in Costa Rica, and if it looks like it's going to be good, we book a hotel for a week or 2 weeks, and we go, and we know there's going to be swell. And that's the way most people do it, and that's also why you can expect to not really surf Pavones without crowds, because everyone knows when it's going to break, and everyone's on it, and everyone's coordinating on social media for days and weeks in advance of the swell. So Pavones is one of those places, okay? So in conclusion, I hope you like the surf guide. I hope you got something out of it. We're getting some views, we're getting some likes, we're getting some subscribes. You know, if you really like this content, please give us a comment, a like, and subscribe. Have you been to Pavones? What was your experience? Did you have a good time? Isn't it awesome? I think it's awesome. Yeah, so let us know. Thanks everyone for watching to this point, and I hope everyone has a good day, pura vida, and all that shit.